November strong. That number we are seeing downtick in markets. Not much, but we are seeing a slight downtick following these data points coming in. A little worse on the spending and income, and a little hotter on the core PCE month-over-month and year-over-year data points.
Good morning. Morning, guys. I don't hate TNA. I was looking at it a few weeks ago. Believe it or not, when this was like right within this consolidation, I think it was around the same moment. Um, I was looking at either TNA or ARC, and I ended up going with ARC, right, on 6-6. They had fairly similar setups at the same time. The difference was one was below the 200 and the other one was above. And and then I looked at Kathy's holdings, and it became kind of obvious which one I should do. So I don't hate TNA, but you're gonna have to keep your eye on the IWM. Obviously, it's just leveraged IWM, and you're trying to get above it today. We'll see. We just had some PCE data point, and that came in a little hotter, and then personal spending came in a little lower. So I don't know. The market's been on an extended run here, so at any moment, we could just kind of pause, and it'd be good to put the buying on hold while the market's pausing, but kind of keep your eyes on relative strength leaders while that's happening. Morning, Isaac. No, I'm still technically AM. This is still streaming to YouTube. Morning, Doug. What do I think of AGX? Let me look. It's getting there. It's getting there. Looks all right. Doesn't look bad. AGX is a construction company, and they make pretty good money too. Good earnings and sales. EPS rising, sales rising.
On BUR, you advances defense tech trends.
It's a good looking chart. Yeah, I saw GEV this morning. Something on Trump. Trump plans executive orders for AI growth. Power plans for AI growth. Yeah, CEG. Not bad. Yeah, energy was already on watch. Was on the watch list last night. Yep, this looks good. We'll see. You know what you need with all that power supply? Copper. Something I got long yesterday, so hopefully. Interestingly enough, Sam, for some reason, MSTR is not really. Yeah, I mean, these last few days for Bitcoin have been pretty bullish, and I thought MSTR would have been doing a little bit better yesterday, and it wasn't really doing anything. I'm not sure. I think it depends where you entered. So 383 stop might be too tight unless you just bought it like, 375 or something. Might be a little too tight. Still got room down to the ascending 50 and 20 and but if you bought it way down, wherever the hell down here, 250s, then it's definitely too tight. But if you just bought it like 2 days ago, then you might have to have it that tight. So it just depends. Where you bought it is just as important. 387 you bought it, so you bought it yesterday or even the day prior. So I didn't like that buy spot because I've been using 392.56, and I'll tell you why. So in this consolidation, you broke down and you had this little subtle gap down, and then you had a pickup in volume when you broke the 20 simple moving average. And the high of this bar was 392.19. So actually, this should really be 392.19. And, so I've been kind of using this level. So above it, good. And you'd want to see it base underneath that level and break through with good power. And even, a day like yesterday, it just came right up to it and rejected. So it's got to get over the bar where it gaps down and breaks down. That's like step number one. Yeah, Live Nation doesn't look too bad. Yeah, Live Nation looks pretty good, in my opinion. Yeah, Acro's cool. I don't know that I love it, but just be careful with your biotechs, man. If you're not careful with your biotechs, you end up in an alt. So, right, you don't want to end up in this scenario. No, Google's kind of a laggard at this point. Google and Apple are kind of laggards. They probably end up higher both in time. It's more than likely they end up higher, but it's a bit of pain in the ass more than anything. This thing has literally done nothing for over a month. It's a laggard. ARQQ, I don't really know what they do. Software infrastructure. Boy, earnings and sales are absolutely horrible on this name. Strong, scalable, quantum safe security. World-class security solution built on prem, cloud, and edge to protect your most valuable assets. Protect against the quantum threat. There is no even quantum computing yet. That's exactly why they make no money. Quantum computing's not a real thing. So that's interesting. They're like LAES. They have a business that's useless right now. Intel's been working on quantum computing since the 1980s. And you got to key in on the word working. They've been working on that for 40 plus years. Yeah, I covered my Austin. I covered it at 70 cents and 80 cents. I got kind of terrible fills out of the second unhaul, but at that point, it was just a rounding error, dude. 30 cents wasn't going to make a difference. Why did it come on my radar? Because I've studied those before. So they effectively, what had happened here was on an Ostin was, see this massive volume day, right? So some Chinese prop shop comes in and soaks up the entire float. So Ostin has a smaller float basically than the amount of shares that was traded on this day. So, this has got like a 63 million share float, and this thing trades 107 million shares on day one. So effectively, the float is entirely locked up. And then what ends up happening is they're just a Chinese little bucket shop, prop shop. They're just doing wash sales the entire way up, and they're creating a market for a stock that nobody's actually interested in. And so what starts to happen is, you could even kind of see it when this thing actually came on my radar on like the 18th. Every little dip, so it would have been on this day here. I was watching it every single day, and every dip, on a smaller time frame, was just getting soaked up. And what do I mean by that? It means like every ugly down move, instant reclaim, right? Every ugly down move, instant reclaim. And I knew the chart was being played with. Like when a chart does this shit and it's not really trading any like linear volume and no real good price action, like when you see this before, this is like um CGTL or JYD or CLEU all over again. And like every little down move, reclaim, down move, reclaim, down move, reclaim. And you're just like, okay, this is just effectively wash sales taking place all the way up. And, eventually this thing starts to get a little ridiculous. And I remember I started to watch this thing again, the day before yesterday. And, finally started to stay a little bit heavy, wasn't going to make new highs, and the tape changed a little bit, in the morning. It was trading a little bit more volume in pre-market. Um, Now, my timing on when it was going to dump was absolutely insane. If you guys watch the videos, it's kind of funny. Um, but yeah, once this candle started happening and we started to have a real pickup in volume and you weren't reclaiming out to new highs, I kind of knew it was over. And yeah, the timing on like, all right, little buddy, let's dump that whole thing was kind of insane. And then once it halted, and it actually halted down, there's no market for it, right? So like that little prop desk and all these little dumps, they're getting out of all of their shares that they soaked up in the very beginning, just much higher. And there's no more market for the stock. Unfortunately, there are people in here who are buying it and buying it and buying it, and then they get caught in this, and that kind of sucks. Um, but yeah, for me, it was an awesome trade. I had a 911 average and covered everything sub a dollar. So it was pretty fantastic. It made the entirety of the month. But you just know that this is wash sales. And, CLEU was something similar. Just the wash sales didn't take place as long. CGTL was something similar. They're just wash sailing this all the way up. Um, JYD, something similar. They're just wash sailing this thing all the way up, creating a market for a stock that doesn't actually exist. Like nobody's actually trading this thing. And then it dumps. Huge move, right? It's like this one just happened to happen in after hours, right? You're at $8 and then you wake up and you're at 30 cents. So this isn't uncommon. You just have to study these. You have to understand what's actually going on, the why it's running up, and try your best to take advantage. But once it halted, I'm in there with a bunch of shares, and then it unhalts, an hour plus later, and you're up 90% on your short. So yeah, it was over with. It was tons of fun, honestly, and it made the month. So if I could only pick one, yeah, Tesla's a bit of a laggard too, but I'm still watching this thing. It is above the 200, so I'm still watching this. This thing had like a couple pieces of bad news yesterday, and still hung in there. So you know, we'll see. If I can only pick one, SATS or IRDM. Oof, damn. Jesus. Do I have to pick? SATS. But boy, hold on. Let me be real with you for a second. Hold on. SATS is communication services. That's actually been acting better. Kind of not so earnings and sales. IRDM, telecom services. I would actually go with IRDM. Better earnings and sales going forward. Is FCX a long term, medium term, or short term trade for you? D, that's very easy to answer. If it stops me out today, it's a short term. If it stops me out in 2 weeks, it's medium term. And if it continues to trend above its own key moving averages for 4 months, it's a long term. I don't make that decision. The stock does for me. My thoughts on CoreWeave is it's too extended. Needs a better base. But now they're buying a better business, which is Core Scientific. Yeah, John, I do stream in session every day. If I'm at the computer, which is basically every day. Yeah, I had 60,000 shares of Ostin. The only thing that I had little nightmares about yesterday while I was drinking my old fashioned was that I didn't have more shares of Ostin. It was such an amazing trade. I just wish I had more. Yeah, well, it's not small caps. It's China, you know, pump names that are just basically being wash sailed all the way up, which you should understand what that is. If you don't know what the company does and they don't have real earnings and sales and they're not in a leading group, you shouldn't be trading them, right? I would never long something like that ever. Um, and also with biotechs, you got to be cautious with those too. It's not common in the Chinese names because you can own an Alibaba and that's never going to happen with Baba. Can Baba just be in a downtrend? Yeah, that's a whole nother topic for discussion, but that's not something that's going to occur with a Baba, say like something with a CGTL, but you need to know what you own. If it's a sub $10 stock and it's just up every fucking day, like you got to understand something's going on. Yeah, CrowdStrike, very nice. I'm sitting there myself, so about damn time. The up and down arrows on my charts are MACD histograms. So instead of actually having MACD on my chart, I have it, as little arrows instead. So it's a histogram. No, I'd like IRDM more because of better earnings and sales. Yeah, AIRO. You know what? I don't really trade IPOs. I didn't trade CoreWeave. I didn't trade Circle. I don't trade recent IPOs. Like I won't be trading VOYG. I let them IPO. I let the lockup period or VO. What is it? VOGR. VOYG. Yeah, VOYG. I just don't trade recent IPOs. They got to get through their lockup period, and then after their lockup period, and they've got like a nice chart established, and they got good earnings and sales, and they're in a good group. Then I can come in and buy it. Feels like Dollar General has bottomed. Nice base here. It feels like Dollar Tree has bottomed. It feels like Ali is the leader. It definitely is your leader. Breaking out of a nice big sloppy base, but once it breaks out, they tend to be pretty linear after breaking out of big bases. My thoughts on a lab. I liked it a few days ago at 86 bucks. Right? I've been talking about this in the room. If you're going to be buying something, buy them off of ascending moving averages and then just zoom in on your smaller time frame. Like 86 bucks was the spot to buy a lab. And there's your move. Just a simple 620 setup off a key level. Very easy. Yeah, I don't trade over extensions. Yeah, from the 50 simple moving average. So if it's a smaller mid cap, I can go to like 5x ATR, but if it's, a large cap, 4x. So yeah, I don't like to buy anything more than 4 times its average true range from the simple 50 simple moving average. Very, very easy rule. Keeps you out of a lot of trouble. So, well, the leading nuclear name is CCJ, but it's extended. Um, yeah, Cameco's a bit extended. CEG, I think, has the best kind of a tight consolidation. VST has just been too vertical with no pause. Or sorry, that's VT. VST, vertical with no real pause. You know, it's just a V-shaped recovery. You can't really trade these. You need digestion. Something like a JP Morgan, right, where they just pause for a little bit, a couple weeks of sideways, and then they break out. UEC is the laggard, trying to get above the 200 simple moving average, series of higher lows, finding support on the rising 20. But again, it's a laggard, right? Would you rather have, CCJ or UEC or CCJ? Well, it's like, one looks extended and it is, and the other one's lagging behind that. What do you think happens to this one when the one that's extended starts to get beaten up? You know, um, so who knows? I don't know exactly how to get involved in them. I own copper, so I feel like you can't deliver electricity without some copper wires. So, if you're bullish one, you almost got to be bullish the other. No, they're in my Discord, man, John. No, I owned KGC 2 days ago. I bought this 2 days ago, just over prior day high, and then it didn't close all that great. Like I literally top ticked my entries, and then it didn't close all that great, but I was using low of day. The next day it gaps up, but gold was down. And then I was going to add to KGC over 1550, but whenever I'm trading like gold or pretty much anything, I want to make sure that the underlying asset. So if I'm trading a tech name, you want to do it when the QQQ is going up. If you're trading a crypto name, you want to do it when Bitcoin's going up. If you're trading a gold name, you want to do it when gold is going up. Well, KGC goes up yesterday and gold is down. So I didn't add to my position because I was like, oh, I'm not going to add to this. My KGC is just going to come down. Well, sure enough, gold then last night, overnight, starts to come down, losing the 50 simple moving average last night. And I'm like, well, shit, I'm glad I didn't add to KGC. And, KGC is now gapping down. So it's like, where it looks good last night, I'm like thankful I didn't add because now I'm effectively back at flat on my position. So not mad about being back at flat. I'm just very happy that I didn't add and I knew better than to not add. So I'm still like gold because it's not crowded, but I do not like silver because of positioning. I'd rather own copper because it's not crowded. But again, copper's down too. So, but copper is the least crowded of all of the metals. So I prefer copper well over silver. I don't want to be aligned with all the people who lose money in the world, which is small and large speculators, which is they're long silver as a catch up trade. They're not quite as long gold. They're long gold, but not as long gold. But yeah, I definitely don't like silver nearly as much as copper. And I made a tweet about that too, if you just look back. Oklo today. I see the pop up this pre-market. Nah, it's got to take out this ugly red bar, this huge bearish engulfing candle. Yeah, I'm sure Oracle in time keeps going higher. Study Gil Morales. It's where the 6-period moving average crosses above the 20 on a 5-minute chart. Amazon looks pretty good. Thought it looked good over 218. And TEM looks interesting. Would like to see it over 72 bucks. Or just get over this little base. You know, some people might call this a tiny little bull flag. I hate drawing these downtrending lines. But needs to get going over this little ugly bearish engulfing as well. Same like Oklo, right? 71.37 would be my guess. Needs to, once it starts to get going over that, you're in a good market. But I don't just like it to like something, right? I buy something as it's breaking out, or coming into a ascending moving average, and then I expect cushion from it right away. Yeah, ARQQ runs with quantum names. Yeah, quantum security. But I don't really like the quantum names. I'm short Rigetti. So I'm already short Rigetti. Feels like these quantum stocks are running out of steam, to be completely honest with you guys. And I would not be long these names, right? Like a name like QUBT, guys, they make no fucking money, period, point blank. And they're over here running up from 4 back to 20. I mean, let's get real. Like, first to go from, pennies to 27 is stupid. They make no fucking money. Then they get destroyed all the way to 4 like they should have. And then all of a sudden they run back to 20 again. Come on. What are we doing over here? No, I don't like cores for high volume close play. And the reason is it's a buyout, right? They're supposed to be bought out by CoreWeave. So could it keep going higher? Yeah, we're opening at 1720, but the HVCs would be 1636, and 2, they're a buyout play, right? I prefer, something like Iron, which has been moving cleanly for the last few days. Unfortunately, I missed this one. I even made a tweet about these. I said Hut, Cores, and Iron look pretty damn good. But yeah, Iron, Hut, it's another one. They're starting to shape up, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it's just in a little uptrend. I don't like the price action though. Like, this shit sucks. Could you imagine owning it through here? How annoying would that be? Terribly annoying. NBIS, yeah, nice little bounce off the 20 simple moving average 2 days ago. Right, so it comes into the 20, but look at this volatility, dude. I mean, just this looks terrible. Right, but it is tightening up on the right-hand side. I just, CYN another offering. RBNE 2.0. That's hilarious. Low of day is my stop on FCX. SMCI, yeah, I like the base it built. Bit of a laggard compared to the other semis, but really nice little base. Got above the 200, could very well get going higher here pretty soon. Yeah, the only thing I don't like about Rubric was the volume pickup here on the way down. right? The biggest volume bars recently are distribution, but I don't hate it. You know, it's in a good cybersecurity group, so still watching it. Yeah, Amazon's a bit of a laggard. Twilio, I like. Good earnings and sales on this name.
On RVYL, uniform for insider purchase on the name.
Yeah, Pony. Pony was moving on that news a little bit with Uber yesterday. You know, I guess Uber is like, all right, well, we got the platform. We're just going to try to develop our own, self-driving car. And they got enough money for that. I like Eat, but I like Shack more. ADEA? No, 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 no. Trade 7 million bucks a day, dude. 7 million bucks a day, and it's not. It's hardly above its 200. Could it go? Yeah, it could, but no. You leave NNE alone too, dude. It's a laggard. See, that's the thing. That's such a dangerous phrase. It's not as extended as the others. It's not as extended as the others. It's a piece of shit, and that's me being nice about it, Roger. Period. It's garbage, hot trash. That's the reason it's not as extended as the others. It's not extended because nobody wants to buy the fucking thing. Period. End of story. Could it eventually go? Yeah, of course it can. But at that point, Oklo will be at 85, 90, 100. Who the hell knows? Right? I mean, but imagine if Oklo starts to come down in a big way, right? NNE is going to get crushed. So, you know, again, I just try to make sure that nobody trades lagging turds for that exact reason because you just end up depantsed. You don't want to be depantsed in front of the class. Lunar, garbage. You mean in this strong bull market, this thing's still below the 200? Could it get going? Yes, but don't assume it has to, right? Don't assume this thing has to get going over the 200. Would I trade Reddit today? No. I don't really see a setup to buy it off of. Like, I don't see a clean anything here. Just got over the 200, like, 5 days ago. Hey, Penny, knock that shit off, girl. Got my two dogs wrestling around. App loving, you know, I don't know how I feel about this one either at the moment. It's got some work to do. UMAC, aren't they like a drone? So you got UMAC, PDYN. Okay, so here's the difference. Like PDYN at least broke out prior day high, right? Where UMAC, I mean, UMAC has made a huge move in the past, so can't just like ignore this thing. But why didn't it look like some of the others? Why doesn't it look like PDYN? Why doesn't it look like HSAI? What's up, my love? Huh? I can't hear you, babe. Water? I don't understand. AS it's not so bad. It's not that extended anymore. The 50 is going to be a little bit higher today. I mean, it looks better. Nice little consolidation recently. InnoData, yeah, InnoData is definitely quite the move yesterday. A lot of these names had big moves yesterday. InnoData, HSAI, dude, I saw a lot of this yesterday. Yeah, Dave, I'm basically just looking for a 3 to 5 day move, a push away from my entry. I trim a piece, 30 to 50%, and then I just trim the rest. Or, I mean, I'm sorry, I just trail the rest. So that's it. Keep it fairly simple on that front. You're looking for a tight area and a stock in a good group. Okay, so if it's a stock in a good group and it's got good earnings and sales, those two things normally will help a stock go higher. But then you're looking for a technical setup where you can limit risk from, and you're buying it and you're going to reward yourself for catching that 3 to 5 to 7 day move. That little explosive move. It's like Ollie, right? Right, where it's like you see the base, and then you see it breaking out of the base, and then you're going to reward yourself for catching the move out of the base, and then all of a sudden you're going to pay yourself a little bit, and then you're just going to be able to trail it on these ascending moving averages for God only knows how long, right? That's the whole idea. And that's it. Trade's done, right? And then you move on to the next thing.